Okay, well, I hope you can see my screen. Um, and if you can't, please tell me. Well, my name is Jorge. I am a member of Wikimedistas, the Uruguayan user group, and today I am going to tell you about a tool I developed along with several colleagues. It is a web tool called Paulina. It is based on Wikidata, and its focus is on the public domain. I think Paulina can be an interesting and useful tool for people from GLAM institutions, researchers, teachers, students, and in fact, for every person passionate about cultural heritage. So let's start. Paulina is available at paulina.toolforge.org, and the code repository is on Wikimedia's GitLab. Here I also share with you a QR code to visit the site. And so what's the problem we are trying to address with this tool? As you know, copyright is very, very complex. It has very long terms which differ from one country to another. And this is a barrier to discovering and accessing works and knowing if the works also can be reused or not, especially in countries from the global south, where there is generally a lack of reliable data about the public domain. So a comprehensive database is what is needed to address this problem, and that's why our idea is to use Wikidata at the heart of this project. Wikidata is powerful for this purpose for several reasons. The main one, it is a global database. It is collaborative with thousands of active users from many countries, and also it is connected to libraries, archives, and museum databases through identifiers. But on the other hand, Wikidata has some limitations for this task. The main one perhaps is that it is a general purpose database, and I mean, that's okay. That's the idea of something like any Wikidata, but as such, as a general purpose thing, the data is not specifically focused on public domain, and its interface is not especially designed to access information about cultural heritage. And what is more, and this is very important, Wikidata still has huge information gaps, especially when we look at countries from the global south. And here is where Paulina comes in. Paulina is a web app that aims to leverage the advantages of Wikidata and overcome some of its limitations. And this is how the homepage looks. It has a search form and some clickable examples. And I'm going to give you a brief tour of the tool, and then I invite you to visit the website. The first thing you can do with Paulina from the home page is to search for authors and works by name or keyword. Right next to the search box, there is a selector that allows you to switch between author and work search. And this search and everything you'll see in the next slides is powered by the Wikidata API. All of this, Paulina is showing you is information taken from Wikidata. The search form has also some filters, for example, gender, nationality, and public domain status in the case of authors, and type of work or country of origin in the case of works. Recently, we added the possibility to perform a search also using only the filters without a name or keyword. And this can be useful to obtain, for example, lists of, I don't know, female authors from Uruguay or lists of musical works from Colombia and other types of lists that I think that can be useful, for example, for organizing events, or editing campaigns or workshops. Querying for building lists. Then if you search, for example, authors and click on one of the results, you go to the author's profile, which has useful information for copyright clearance. For example, nationality, date of birth and death, etc. And the profile has also some links to Wikipedia, Wikimedia Commons, Wikisource, even Wikiquote. And there is a link to Wikidata also that invites you to edit the item if there is missing or wrong information. Sometimes you will see some, for example, funny vandalism there, and you know that you have to correct that in the item. The author profile has also a button that here, the orange one that you see there, if you click there, that button allows you to query and obtain a list of works by that author. Some items you can see here have an arrow icon indicating that the work is available for download, and we next are going to see how it works. If you click on one of the works from that list, you go to the work profile, which has relevant information for copyright clearance, to know if the work is in the public domain. And also, very importantly, when there is an online version available of the work, the profile provides the links to access the work on Wikisource, Wikimedia Commons, Internet Archive, Project Gutenberg, etc. That's also thanks to the wiki links in the Wikidata item, and also some identifiers and some properties that give this information. Well, now I'll focus on a question you may be asking, and it is, how does the tool calculate the public domain status of a work or an author? And the answer is quite simple in a sense. Wikidata items about works have a property called copyright status, and similarly authors items have a property called copyright status as a creator. And Paulina takes that information and displays it very prominently in the profiles. But if the Wikidata item of an author, for example, doesn't have this information, which is sometimes for several authors, mainly from my region, it's quite common. The tool makes an estimate. If they died, for example, if they died more than 100 years ago, it tells you that that author's works are in the public domain worldwide. For living authors or those who died less than 50 years ago, they are considered in private domain, and so on. It is a very simple calculator, but over time, we want to refine how this estimate is made, both for authors and for works, to get closer to a dream that it would be something like a global public domain calculator. That I know it is a very, very complex thing to develop, and many people made some tools around this idea. But it's a goal of this project also. But let's pay a little more attention to the copyright status section that we saw here, those green texts. It says, for example, public domain in United States and public domain in countries with 80 years post-mortem or shorter. That section tells you not only if the work is in the public domain, public or private domain, but also where that happens. And if you click on a particular copyright term, because there are links there, if you click in on those links, you get the list of countries that meet that condition, and anonymous works, pseudonymous works, phonograms, etc. That's also information from Wikidata that I will later on. I will tell you about a project in which we are working on this, modeling the copyright status of the copyright terms of different countries, specific copyright terms. Well, the website also has a tab, top left, called Countries and Terms. That is very simple. That this allows you to quickly find out the copyright term of any country. That's can be quite useful. And recently, we added also some statistics to each country's page. Currently, it only shows the number of works identified on Wikidata as being in public domain for that country. You will see in these statistics large information gaps. We want to improve the country statistics page and make it more useful for easily accessing diverse lists of works and authors that can make the work of event organizers easier. I mean, that I think that these kinds of lists can be very, very useful. I heard that someone placed a comment or something like that. I can't see you, but when I end my presentation, I will look at that. Finally, the website is multilingual. At this moment, there are 14 languages to choose from. It would be great if you could help translate the tool into new languages. You are invited to do that. Later on, I will tell you how you can do that. But well, this was the brief tour. Now, what do we want to achieve with the Paulina project? Well, we want to build the concept of this is a global and multilingual Wikidata-based search interface for cultural heritage. We also want to explore the possibility, apart from this tool, we also want to explore the possibility of building national, regional, or thematic versions of the tool according to the needs of different GLAM communities. I will show you an example next. But additionally, we want the tool to be used to identify gaps of knowledge and improve the existing information on Wikidata. That's very important for us to improve Wikidata information that is on Wikidata. And finally, we aim to use the tool to discover possible improvements in the way the information about the public domain is modeled on Wikidata. A tool like this can be useful for that also. Well, what are we doing now to improve the tool and achieve these goals? We recently joined the Outreach program with a project to improve Paulina. Outreach, I don't know if you know this program. It provides internships in open source to people who face underrepresentation, systemic bias, or discrimination in the technical industry. And thanks to this program, around 20 applicants joined to collaborate on micro tasks. And from this group of people, one will be selected as an intern to work 3 months on a specific project. And now I will tell you which is the project. This specific project will consist of providing a friendly interface to edit Wikidata through Paulina. Because currently Paulina just provides a link to the Wikidata item, inviting the user to edit the item if there is missing or wrong information. But the features that we want to explore and try to build are basically 3 kinds of features. First, a feature to edit a Wikidata statement on a work or author to fix incorrect or vandalized information. For example, here you can see in this slide a super simple proof of concept of design of how could it be implemented, like to add in a pencil icon and just edit that, obviously logging in. That's one of the features that we want to add. Also a feature to add a Wikidata statement to an item of a work or author when it does not exist, or the statement it does not exist yet. And third, a feature to create a Wikidata item for an author or a work when it does not yet exist, when the item does not yet exist. Also, learning from the experiences of other tools that also help. It will not be the first tool that does it, but it will be another one that can help people to edit Wikidata. I think facilitating the edition of Wikidata. The idea is that these features will be integrated into the Paulina interface. And also, well, in the process of building this feature, it will require delving deeper into the use of the Wikidata APIs. And well, that's one of the main things in which we are working on in these days. But also there are other ideas for the future. We are also working on adding better search filters. For example, up to this point, we don't have a filter for authors' discipline or year of birth and year of death for authors, or more detailed options for types of works, and so on. We will work also on a complete redesign of the country pages with new statistics and exploration features. We want to make the country pages very useful for, as I told you before, to event organizers. And we also want more translations to be made. And from the technical side, we are also improving our processes. We recently improved the documentation of the tool and built a staging environment to facilitate collaboration in the development of the software. And well, as I told you before, we are testing how a local version of the tool could look like. Here, this is a screenshot of the first local version, a Uruguayan portal available at dominiopublico.ui. This is in a very preliminary state. It is very similar, as you can see, to the main tool, but focused solely in Uruguay. When you search, for example, when you search for authors and works, the results are filtered for Uruguayan ones. And the information about the public domain is adapted to the Uruguayan copyright term. It also includes local identifiers and links to the local catalogs of libraries and museums. That is, for a global tool like Paulina, it's quite difficult to include all possible identifiers and catalogs, but when you build something more local, it can be easier. And well, I think that local versions can provide more granular and flexible ways to show information, but this is also, we are testing this. We are not sure that if the way is to for the improving the global tool, or also this other way of creating more local and flexible and to make adaptations of the tool to local needs. Well, I speak briefly about the technologies we use to develop Paulina. Paulina makes extensive use of the different APIs available for getting data from Wikidata. The app is hosted on ToolForge, the free hosting platform provided by Wikimedia Foundation for projects that obviously are related to the Wikimedia projects. And the app is developed in Python using a web framework called Flask and a software called Babel for internationalization. At this moment, the translation platform is web-led, but in the future, we would like to migrate it to Translate Wiki. If there are some experts of Translate Wiki here, I would be glad to talk to you. And well, this is some good news. At Wikimania 2025 Nairobi, Paulina received the Coolest Tool Award in the category Most Innovative, which was a huge joy. Furthermore, the award will allow us to take the project to the next Wikimedia Hackathon in Milan. So it would be help a lot to continue with this, with the development. And by the way, This is why the session is called a cool tool for exploring the public domain. If you'd like to contribute to the project, there are several ways you can do it. You can help translate the tool to more languages. There are the links. You can also request a new feature to meet a need or use case, and you can report a bug because there are a lot of bugs. And finally, if you have technical skills, you can contribute code. Paulina is free software, and well, you have the link to the repository there. But well, just in the last 5 minutes, and then I want to talk with you. In the last 5 minutes, I want to talk about some collaboration beyond Paulina, because besides working on this tool, I and my colleagues are part of a bigger community collaborating to strengthen the public domain with Wikidata. Specifically, we are collaborating in a regional project called this, Strengthening the Latin American Public Domain with Wikidata, which recently received the Wikimedia Foundation Community Grant, in which we are planning to do workshops and campaigns about Wikidata and the public domain. And the aim of the project is to address knowledge gaps on Wikidata about cultural heritage in our region. The project is driven by affiliates and volunteers from Uruguay, Chile, Colombia, and Mexico. We are working also with other countries, but and within the framework of this regional effort, we created a wiki project called Dominio Público en América Latina, public domain in Latin America, which is available in Spanish and Portuguese. And in this wiki project, we are systematizing which properties and qualifiers we can use to describe the copyright status of a work or author in different countries, and the different identifiers of libraries and museum catalogs, of local libraries and museum catalogs, in order to create or improve items of authors and works, among other things. But we are also modeling the information about copyright terms in different countries. As I told you before, we include not only the general copyright term, but also special terms for different types of works, because this could also contribute to that idea of the global public domain calculator. Well, Paulina is a collective project which receives contributions from many people, and the project has received support from the Wikimedia Community Fund, and also these are the several Uruguayan organizations that support the project. Well, the Uruguayan user group of Wikimedia Uruguay, but also the Uruguayan chapter of Creative Commons and some other organizations. And well, that's it. I think we have a few minutes, and I'd like to use these minutes to listen to you. I'd love to hear your comments, ideas, questions. Here are some questions that I have for you. But feel free to share whatever you'd like. That's it.
Thank you. Much appreciated, and congratulations on the award. Does anyone have questions for Jorge?
We did have a question from the audience. Jennifer asks, could these statistics also be presented as proportions, like 6-X musical items in public domain, or broken down as public domain, not public domain, or not enough information to determine?
Well, that's the kind of ideas that I'd like. I will I will write down some of these ideas, because yes, it can be done, and I think it can be very useful also yes, for that, but also, for example, for gender statistics and different kinds of statistics. Yes, good idea. Other ideas or questions? Oh, thank you.
Klaus von Fortulo mentioned that there seems only a few works on Wikipedia. They found several persons which published much, but nothing is listed. Or shall we include all works from other sources in Wikidata, such as catalogs and how-to?
Well, I don't know if I understood completely well the question, but I think yes. Please, I will answer and then tell me if I understood well. There is some debate about how comprehensive Wikidata should be. That is a huge debate, especially how comprehensive it should be for works and editions of works. The answer that I have for that is that at this now currently there are in the field we are working, for example, with adding new works from Latin America, and what we find is that there are huge, but really huge information gaps. Really very famous works are not have not an item on Wikidata, and when you compare that with European works, for example, paintings and books, or North American, it's the difference is it's shocking. So we can have that debate, but we have to address these huge biases, and we from the places that we can, we don't want to hear that we can't do that. I don't know how to say. I mean, because it was made for other places, and now it's the time for us to represent our cultural heritage on Wikidata. So, I mean, I am super open to the debate, but we also have to address that kinds of situations. But I don't know if that answers your question. But there are other more specific questions. For example, if all the editions of Romeo and Juliet have to be on Wikidata, and this is obviously a good question. But I think that, for example, all literary works should be there. I don't know if all editions, but all titles should. I think there should. It would be important that Wikidata has an item for them.
Great, thank you. Michelle asked a question in the chat. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask it, or I could just voice it on your behalf? Then I'll voice it. Yeah, Michelle says, thank you very much for the presentation. Are the copyright models hard-coded in the tool, or is there something like an accessible data set with copyright types, duration of terms per country, and so on? Their idea for later iteration is that some countries, there are different types of copyrights on works in use, like in Germany, where there is a work type Lichtbild, which is protected for only 50 years after inception, or publication instead of 70 years after death of the creator.
Well, as I told you before, we take the first thing that Paulina does is look if the items, if the Wikidata items have that information in the item. Many times it has the property that says copyright status, public domain, and there are qualifiers that in the Wikidata item that makes more precise the statement. So Paulina first takes that from there, and if it's not the information is not in the item, it calculates it it has a very simple algorithm to calculate that. And when I think that modeling the copyright terms from each country will be very, very helpful in modeling it on Wikidata. I mean, it will be very, very helpful. Modeling, for example, these more specific terms will be super helpful for being more precise in the copyright for copyright clearance and for a tool like Paulina. But we try every time that we can, we try to get the data from Wikidata because our aim is to improve Wikidata.
Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, everyone, for your questions. It is now time for Edgar and Peter to take over with a call to improve the Wikidata ontology.